you might be wondering, where do you start when you first get into photography? There's honestly quite a lot of options out there. It can be kind of confusing to go through. Well, maybe let's simplify it just a little bit for you. We're gonna go over what I would do on 3 separate budgets, being a $500 budget, a $1,000 budget, and a $2,000 budget. This will help give you a good starting point depending on what your budget might be. But anyways, hey, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. I go into everything photography and videography related. Personally, I'm a Sony fanboy, so if you like Sony cameras, this channel might help. I have a lot of content on my channel to help the beginner photographer, so please check me out. I'd love to help you along your journey as you start off photography. So let's dive right into the first budget option. That's $500. Now in 2023, $500 is not too much for starting off photography, unfortunately. Now I want to preface these options with these are going to be Sony options, as in that's what I know the most about. But honestly, there's very close budget comparisons to Nikon, Canon, or whatever your preference is. In this day and age, I wouldn't really recommend one over the other. I just personally like Sony more than anything else. But that does not mean by any means that Canon is better or worse, or Fujifilm is better or worse. It's really just user preference. And when you're diving into what you think would be your user preference, just do a bunch of research, watch a bunch of videos on different makes. But maybe this video will help you decide if Sony is the way you want to go. Anyways, let's start off with the $500 option. And with $500, you don't have that many options, unfortunately. And you're definitely going to want to buy used. But here's a list of gear that I recommend. First and foremost, your camera body. I'm going with a used A6000. Now this is a Sony A6400 and the camera body is very similar, but it's just a few years models back. But despite it being a few years old, it's still a powerhouse of a camera and a great starting point for the Sony camera family. Now at $500, I'm definitely recommending you should buy used. Reason being is this camera new hasn't depreciated in value all too much. So if you look on eBay, maybe B&H Photo for used products, you can find the Sony A6000 for around $350. But for argument's sake, let's say the range for the A6000 is between $275 and $350. Now one of the reasons why I'm recommending an older body and why I think you should buy an older body, especially used, is because you want to try and save money for an aftermarket lens. Really, you're going to find the biggest quality jump this day and age buying a good quality lens. Now here's the hard part. We're trying to stay around $500 for this first budget category, and spending $275 to $350 on a camera body doesn't leave much room. Yes, you can go with the kit lens. Being a 1650mm, the variable changing aperture is a good starting point. In this camera body with the kit lens used, you can find around $350 to $450. But if you buy this, just the body, find a price around $300, the lens I recommend and you will have great success with is my favorite aftermarket company, Sigma, the 30mm prime lens for APS-C cameras. And if you're brand new, APS-C is a crop sensor camera. The A6000, A6400 are crop sensor cameras. And for comparison, something like the A74, A73, that's a full frame camera. But I don't really want to get into the details of that right now. That can be a whole nother video. But anyways, the lens that I recommend for this APS-C camera is the Sigma 30mm prime with an aperture of f1.4. Now I say prime, what do I mean by that? Well, prime lens has a fixed focal length, meaning this is a zoom lens, so I'm able to zoom it in and out. A prime lens doesn't do that, which, allows a couple things, including it being cheaper without sacrificing any quality, because there's not as many moving parts, they're easier to make and manufacture. So the downside of this lens is 30mm. That's the only focal length you'll be able to shoot with this lens. Now at 30mm, it's a good all-around focal length. You can still take some decent portrait shots with it. It could be a nice travel lens where you don't have to really take out another lens and just use this for everything. And it's wide enough to get some decent landscape photography. The quality of glass, especially with the price around $200, is just, I can't believe it's that cheap used. It really is just probably one of the best lenses for under $200 or around $200 you can buy. And with an aperture of f1.4, not only are you gonna get that nice out-of-focus background to bring the center of focus to your subject, but you're also gonna have a decent solution in your low light situations. So the Sony A6000 plus the Sigma 30mm f1.4 is my combo option for the $500 budget, coming in at a range of between $475 and $575. Next, let's double that budget. Let's say you have a little bit more playroom. So let's go over my $1,000 recommendation. Now, I did some thinking about this, and I still think you should stick with the Sony a6000. That gives us a little bit more room for our lens options. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I feel like lenses are the way to go if you want to upgrade your quality. As a lot of modern camera bodies, they're pretty good. All of them are pretty good at what they do. So let's start this budget off. Sony a6000 coming in around $275 to $350 for just the body. That gives us some wiggle room for lenses. Now here's the fun part. I think this $1,000 package that I came up with is probably the best bang for your buck for versatility of what you might want to do if you're experimenting with different photography types, landscape photography, portrait photography, anything like that. So still staying around $1,000, I'm recommending you pick up 2 lenses. First, this is gonna be a versatile beast. It's the new G series lenses, and they're absolutely phenomenal APS-C crop sensor lenses. And I think you should get the 18 to 105 millimeter f4 lens. Yes, it doesn't have an aperture of f2.8 or something, you know, a little bit better, but f4 is fine in most situations. At 18 millimeters, you're gonna get as much landscape photography as you want in. Yeah, you can go wider, but 18 should be fine in most scenarios. The great thing is, you can go all the way up to 105 millimeters. 85 millimeters, it's great focal length for portrait photography, so you can experiment with that. The lens has an optical steady shot, so if you're a videographer and you wanna get some steady footage, that's gonna help you with that. And because of the versatility going from 18 all the way to 105, you can honestly get away with only bringing that lens and that camera body, and you're gonna be fine in most scenarios. That lens brand new is $550, so let's go ahead and buy used again. And I found a few on eBay for around $350, which is honestly a steal for what it does. And you know what? That's pretty exciting because that gives us a little bit more wiggle room and we're able to afford another lens within our budget. I think we do something a little bit more portrait centric, being that the lens that we're getting for our main lens is f4. Let's buy another prime lens. This time I'm gonna recommend a nifty 50, or at least it's gonna be around a 50 millimeter, and it's the Sigma 56 millimeter f1.4 lens. At 56 millimeters, it's gonna be a good all-around lens for so many different scenarios. Whether you're shooting product photography, you're doing a wedding, it's gonna be a great portrait lens, you know, really bringing that f-stop to 1.4, making your background over there, you know, nice and blurry, producing some great portraits. And at f1.4, you're gonna get away with a lot of low light scenarios like receptions, parties, and events. So that lens used is around $300 from what I can see, bringing our total budget for a camera and 2 lenses, keeping in mind that you're looking for used options from anywhere from as low as $900 to around $1,200. And that brings us to our next category. Let's double it again and go for $2,000. And this is what I would do. So first and foremost, this right here is my favorite lens. It's the Sigma 2470. And I'll leave a link right here to a full video on why I think the 2470 is the best all-around lens if you only wanted to buy one decent lens. I use Sigma because you save quite a bit from G Master lenses. I find that the quality pretty similar. If you're really pixel peeping, you might be able to spot some differences, but in most scenarios, I really don't think you would. So the difference between everything else that I recommended and this lens is it's a full frame lens, meaning it's not gonna be cropped in and you're gonna get more of the sensor, revealing more of the image and overall being able to capture more of your environment. So this lens used is around $900, $1,000. But the cool thing about this guy is I have shot an entire wedding only using this lens and I did not feel like it inhibited my ability to capture any shots. So $900 and $1,000, that leaves you with about, you know, another $1,000 for a camera body. So I was hoping by the time I made this video that the Sony a7 III, that the used and aftermarket price would come down quite a bit. And I was right. I was able to find them on Facebook Marketplace and eBay for just the camera body for anywhere between $950 and $1,100. Now I use the Sony a7 IV, just a little bit of a newer model, but I know a ton, an absolute ton of wedding photographers that still use the Sony a7 III and they don't feel like they need to upgrade. So if I was getting into photography and I was looking to take it to the next level, possibly, you know, start a small business, whether that's micro sessions, being a second shooter for a wedding, or shooting a wedding yourself, I think this $2,000 package will get you moving in the right direction. So getting the Sony a7 III with the Sigma 2470, it's gonna be, I think you're gonna be really happy with that option if you have the budget for it. And like I said, subscribe to my channel. I have a full video about why I think the 2470 is the perfect first focal length for a beginner photographer. I gave you 3 options with different budgets. If you have any questions or want recommendations on gear or have a different budget in mind and you want to know what I think would be a good use of that budget, just hit me up in the comments. I love talking to you guys. I love replying to y'all and helping you guys out as much as I possibly can. It's honestly quite fun for me. Anyways, I hope this video helped y'all out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week in the next video.